Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today we have another fun video in my indoor garden series. And actually today I'm going to be doing quite a few different videos. I've got a lot of fun things that I'm going to be doing. First thing that I'm going to do for this video today is we're going to be transplanting all the seeds that I planted out in one of my last videos. And those seedlings are the ones that I am going to be putting out the earliest in my garden. Those are going to have to go under cover because it is February right now. And as you can tell, I'm really excited about garden season. Now it's too early for most of the seeds that I want to plant, but we've got cabbages, kale, kohlrabi, we've got some onions started, and I'm going to show you how I transplant those into bigger pots. Then we're going to start the second round of seeds that's going to go out this spring. Those are going to be for my early spring crops ready to be transplanted out probably mid-March. Right now it's mid-February. We may end up getting pushed into the end of March. We'll see, because we're getting a little bit of a late start on this. And then the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to be propagating some trees. We're going to try different cuttings. We're going to try from seed. I've had success in some of these things, no success in others. And most of this is going to be an experiment because the cuttings were taken a little bit too early. But those are for another video. Let's take you in a little bit closer right now and show you what I'm going to transplant and show you how I transplant them. So these are the seeds that we are going to transplant. We've got some chard, and if you'll notice, some of the cells had several seeds germinate. And actually, I think chard is one of those seeds that will have several seedlings come out of one seed. But we've got some red ones. These are supposed to be white. They'll turn white. We've got some yellow ones. I'm really happy about the germination on my spinach. They look really good. I did not have any of my purple kale sprout. I think that was an old seed packet, so I have a newer packet, and we're going to be starting some of those seeds for our next video. On my blue ruffles kale that I really love so much, we only had, I think there were 3 sprout. There's 2 in this one and a little tiny one over here. And then we had this guy. This guy sprouted, but as you can see, somehow when I was messing around with things, I actually broke it. When it breaks this low on a seedling, it's not going to grow back. So we're going to have to probably plant some more blue ruffle kale because I love that. This right here is from a seed packet from a seed company that grows landrace vegetables, which means they take the hardiest, strongest of the vegetables that they grow, let those go to seed, collect the seed from those, and then just continually do that until they develop traits that they are looking for. Now, they've probably taken a lot of, just your regular type kale and grown that over and over, because I see one that looks like purple ruffles. This one over here looks an awful lot like the red Russian. There's a lot of different kale varieties in here, but I like to grow different ones, so we're just going to plant those out in the garden later this spring. Now let's take you in and show you the onions. And this area right here is from a packet of Spanish yellow onions that were new. You can see the good germination on that. This one was from an older red onion. This was from an older white, Spanish white onion. And this right here is just a red Italian scallion. Now I had no germination on the Spanish white because that was an older seed packet. So what I did is I replanted with it from a newer packet. So now I'm finally getting those to sprout. But this side right here is in a shallow tray. See, it's just a shallow tray hanging over the top. We are not going to transplant these. We're just going to grow these out in this tray until it's time to plant them. And we'll plant these out probably early to mid-April. We'll just see what the weather looks like. I don't want them to hit any really deep freezes, because then what happens is that sparks them to flower, to set flower the next year. So we're just going to try and monitor the weather and put them out when the weather is right. But these will be put out in just a couple of weeks under cover when they're ready. The kale, I think some of the kale will be growing indoors for harvest. So let me show you how I pot things up. Let's start with the Swiss chard because we're going to be pulling those apart. Some of the chard here just has 1 plant per cell, and some of them has multiple. And we can actually split these apart because these are young enough. They're not mature, so mature that the roots have tangled all together. We're going to be able to separate those. Now, this is seed starting mix. I like starting my seeds in seed starting mix so that they germinate really easily. But seed starting mix does not have fertilizer in it. There are no nutrients, and these plants are not going to be able to grow to their full potential without transplanting them up. Now this right here is seed starting mix. I made this mix myself. I have some of my own homemade compost that I harvested from my compost from last year. We've got coconut coir, perlite, a little bit of worm castings, and then a little bit of organic fertilizer. Now I'm also going to be adding my Osmocote fertilizer on top of that because I like to really make sure all of my seedlings have good nutrition so that they're quite large when they go outside. So to transplant these, let's show you the one where it's a single cell first. I'm going to take my tag and put it in my pot. I love these Epic planting pots because they have a large hole at the bottom, which makes it really easy just to push the plants out. So we pull that out. It's going to fall apart a little bit, but as long as I'm careful, it'll be okay. But we've got some good roots. Let's pull this back together. Make sure it doesn't fall apart too much. We're going to pull some of the soil out. Very gently stick this in here. Even if it falls apart, it's going to be okay. And then we'll gently tuck the soil in around this plant. So you can see the depth that I put that plant in there. Don't plant them too deep, but you can plant them a little deeper than they sprouted in the other pots, just to make sure that they have a little bit of stability to them, so they're not flopping all over the place. Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of the Osmocote fertilizer. We're going to spread some over it, not too much, just a little bit. Then we'll water this in once we're done transplanting. So let's get the rest of our chard done. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it with this cell that has a lot of plants in it. Now I know a lot of people are really worried about disturbing the roots, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this plant, I'm going to very gently tease it apart. We're going to get rid of some of this dirt. We're not going to rip it or tear it right now. What we're doing is we're just, oh, I dropped it a little bit. We're just going to see how gently we can tease these root systems apart. Now look at that. This one is absolutely perfect. We're going to be able to transplant this one easily. So we just dig a little hole, stick it in there. Let's actually dig a deeper hole so we can stick it in deeper. Put a little fertilizer on it. And there we go. We've got another little red chard ready. Now let's separate out these final two. So you can see how they've grown together like this. All you do, let's see if I can do it so you can see it, is just gently, don't pull, just kind of knock them apart. So you can see we have two root systems now. They're beautiful root systems. These will grow just fine. So now that I've got those done, we're going to go ahead and get the rest of these transplanted. They're going to be transplanted exactly the same way. And then we'll look at it and show you how I do my watering. Now I used to have this real issue where I would just feel like I needed to keep every single seed that I grew. It was just impossible for me to get rid of any. But I've started to learn that I don't have that much room in my grow room. And so I've learned to kind of just limit myself to the room that I have, what I need in my garden, and then I just toss the rest. Now I could keep it and give it to friends, but I'm finding that when I'm really busy, like this time of year, I've got a lot of other things going on in my life this time of year. I just don't have time to coordinate getting rid of vegetables. So it's not as easy as you'd think. People say they want them and then they don't show up, and then you've got to go find somebody else to take them, and then they don't show up, and then by that time the plants are huge and you need room in your grow room for other things. And then you've invested so much time in them, you don't want to get rid of them. So I've learned it's easier to do it when they're young. Now there are some plants that I will plant a lot of because I know that I can take them to like a seed swap and just leave them, get rid of them. But I've also got to look at that and say, okay, if I do it that way, then I'm sacrificing my pots that I paid for. So, it's got to be worth it. Selling them, I don't have that in me to sell things. So I just get rid of them. And these will be put outside in another few weeks under cover. They're extremely cold hardy. They do really well through freezing weather. And then I have these low hoop houses with plastic over them. One of them's completely empty. Other ones I'm going to be harvesting stuff out of. So we can put the spinach in there to just kind of grow until we're ready to harvest these and grow other things for the late spring. So there we have them transplanted, watered in, and fertilized. Now the fertilizer that I used, as I said, is Osmocote. It's good for 3 to 6 months. And every time I water, it's going to just leach a little bit more fertilizer in there. That's a slow release fertilizer. I will also, every 2 weeks, do a liquid feed. And it causes my plants to grow huge. You can see like this kale right here, my tomatoes and everything up there. So fertilizing indoors is extremely important. And I'll link another video above that talks more about fertilizer. Now this is the last time that I'm going to overhead water any of these plants. What I'm going to do instead from now on is just fill up my tray full of water and let them soak it in from below. The reason I watered them overhead this time is just to make sure we didn't have any air pockets around the roots. So here's where we put everything under lights. These are just kind of cheap Amazon grow lights, but they do beautifully for greens and for seed starting. They're looking a little bit wilty right now, but they'll pick up and grow perfectly to be planted out in just a few weeks. So that's all there is to it when it comes to transplanting, and I'd love to know if you have any questions or if there's anything that I may have missed in this video that you'd like to add that you do when you're transplanting plants. And I'd love to hear what you're growing right now, and if you are in the midst of your growing season or if you're just getting started. Either way, it's all exciting, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Hopefully this video has been helpful for you. If it has been helpful, I hope you like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.